Am I the a-hole for telling my mother-in-law to shut the F up? I, 24 female, got married at 18 to my very first boyfriend. We got divorced when I was 19 and it was incredibly messy. He is not someone I want to be around ever again. Then I met my current husband at 20 and we got married after 2 years together. Everything is going wonderfully and we are expecting our first baby in late August/early September. My husband knows about my divorce and never told his family. But when we were dating, his family looked me up and found out. Ever since then, they think I'm a gold digger and a slut. My husband defends me and we're lower contact, but since getting pregnant, we've been in contact with them again. Everything has been smooth except for comments from my mother-in-law every now and then. I had my baby shower this weekend with just my close friends and family. Everything was going well until my mother-in-law brought up my divorce in conversation with my mom, making some sort of comments like, "Aren't you glad your first grandbaby is with my son and not with her ex-husband?" My mother politely laughed and brushed it off until my mother-in-law called me over and out of the blue asked, "So tell me the truth between us ladies. Is that really my son's baby? Or are you just saying it so he'll support you? We all know how you were in the past." Everyone stared at me in disbelief. There was only 6 people there total. I looked at my mother-in-law and told her to shut the heck up and get out of my house. She told me she was just looking out for her grandbaby and I told her she didn't have one and she wasn't welcome in our lives. She left, and my sister-in-law started berating me, calling me a witch, and saying my mother-in-law had every right to question me. And I told her, if anything, I was the opposite of a cheap woman because I have only been in committed relationships. I feel like I'm going crazy. I don't understand why she said that, and I also feel like I let my pregnancy hormones get the better of me. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, but I sure hope your husband is telling off both mother-in-law and sister-in-law. He is 100% on my side. Always has been. That's really good news, because I foresee a couple of decades of no contact in your future if you don't want these people polluting y'all's child. The audacity of that woman. I know my mother-in-law thought the same thing about me for a few years, and for basically the same reason. Married high school boyfriend and divorced after a year and a half with no kids. But she was decent enough to never tell me to my face. I wouldn't have known if my husband hadn't joked to me about it years later. Not the a-hole, and bizarre. How is a divorced woman automatically cheap? Is this a Jane Austen novel? She's very old school German, so maybe that's a thing in their culture. I have no idea. I actually know a decent number of German people or first-generation German American. None of them are like this. Well, there goes my only defense for her. Not the a-hole. You and your husband need to get in front of this immediately, together, and lay down the law. I'd seriously go no contact with people as ugly as this. That sort of poison has no place around your child, because have no doubt the snide comments won't stop around your child's innocent ears. Let your husband tell her the good news. He can deal with her. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not correcting my kids who told my ex's wife she's not their mother? I have 2 sons ages 10 and 12 with my ex. We broke up over a number of issues, one of which was Emily, a woman he had worked with for years. The 2 of them grew very close, and she was always telling me how my ex deserved better than me, that I was trying to steal his family away from him. A few times she even pretended to be his wife during work functions and my ex would laugh them off. As well as that he was really bad with money and other stuff. After we separated, he made things official with Emily, which came as no surprise to me. Emily was even more openly hostile when she realized my ex's family still liked me and would still include me. Not to mention when she realized my boys weren't super happy that she was their dad's new girlfriend. Emily actually called ex's mom a C-word for saying I was the best mom when they were all having a family dinner. My ex got a firm warning from the judge about using Emily to do exchanges of our boys and to deal with custody issues. This was after her confronting me a number of times during exchanges, in front of my children, and of her showing not just hostility but saying things that could be taken as alienation of a parent. He continued to allow this, and ex was fined for breaching the judge's orders. He was told if it happened again, custody would be modified. Recently, there has been an increase in the anger towards me. Emily's unable to have children, and she wanted the boys to consider her a mom. They asked me for help, and I said nope. That Emily was not the mother of my children, and I wasn't going to encourage them to consider her one after the years of verbal mistreatment from her. The boys had an award night back at the start of June at school, and while there, Emily told the boys to get in photos with her for the school newsletter. They said no. She told them she wasn't asking. They said she wasn't their mom, so she couldn't say that. My ex scolded the boys, but I said nothing. Ex and Emily said I should have backed them up and not allowed disrespect. I told them I did not find what they said disrespectful. They have claimed I am an awful parent and I should not let my kids get away with that, and that I am teaching them to disrespect women, etc. So now I am here to find out. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. They stated facts. Also hilarious that they're compliant about not showing disrespect. Does this behavior qualify going back to get the custody modified in your favor? Because honestly, your boy's mental health is going to be continuously harmed by those two a-holes. This does not qualify going back. There was no big meltdown and cussing me out, so the judge wouldn't care. I know that it varies area to area, but what is the age at which the kids can choose whether or not they want to go to their dads? I have a feeling once that age hits, that is a choice they will make. Our court system says 16, 14 in the cases of long-distance parenting. Not the a-hole. Weird how it's disrespecting women when your kids don't want to do something, but it's not disrespecting women when Emily's openly hostile to you. I guess it's different when they do it. They said no. She told them she wasn't asking. I would document that and the entire exchange and bring it to the attention of the courts. Emily sounds terrifying. Not stay home. Do everything you can to keep this woman away from your children. It was documented, but this is not an event the courts will care at all about. Her showing not just hostility, but saying things that could be taken as alienation of a parent. He continued to allow this, and X was fined for breaching the judge's orders. He was told if it happened again, custody would be modified. Sure seemed pretty hostile to me, and it was directed at your children. At least keep track of it because it adds to the pattern of her behavior. Would not surprise me if they attempt to punish the kids somehow for this next time your ex has his time with them. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for calling the cops on my fiancé's mom? It's a wild situation, but I feel like I need a fair judgment. So I've 27 male, have been dating Regan, 27 female for 2 years, and have been engaged the past 6 months. When we first started dating, I realized that Regan didn't have the closest relationship with her parents, especially her mom. But all her siblings seemed to get along. I didn't really find out why until later. So, Regan's parents are part of the lifestyle, aka swingers. Growing up, this was really rough on Regan. Everybody in her small town knew and people made fun of her relentlessly. She hated it, but at the same time they were her parents. Well, when Regan was a senior, her mom's videos were posted onto a website. Boys in her grade found them, made her life hell. So she immediately went to a college far away, where we first met, and she really hasn't had a relationship with them. We live like 30 minutes from them and see them only at Christmas. Her parents are always reaching out to her, however. And so I've seen as the guy isolating Regan from the family. I come from a traditional family, church on Sunday types. Regan fell in love with this and really attached herself to my mom. They have gotten super close. Regan always talks about her liking my normal parents. So Regan decided to not invite her mom and dad to the wedding. She said she is embarrassed of them and doesn't want people knowing who her mom is. She even asked my dad to walk her down the aisle. Her siblings got angry with us and she decided to cut them off as well and not invite them, which caused Regan's mom to explode. She's called us so many times the last few months and tried showing up at our place. I've had to tell her to leave every single time as Regan didn't want to, which is leading to the image of me isolating Regan. So this weekend, Regan was at a bachelorette party. I was home alone. I hear someone at my door. I see it was Regan's mom and she looked emotional. I spoke through the doorbell and told her Regan wasn't home and that she needed to leave. She kept knocking and saying, I know she's in there, I just want to talk. I said she wasn't home and that she needed to leave. Well, she walked to her car parked on the driveway and made a phone call. At this point, my neighbor texted me and asked if everything was okay as he heard yelling. Regan's mom came back to the door and kept pounding on it, saying she wanted to talk to her daughter. I told her she had 1 minute to leave the property. She didn't, so I called the cops. She was arrested for trespassing. Regan came back and I told her what happened. She was upset at me, but then understood once I showed her my neighbor's text and doorbell footage. Regan's siblings are angry, however, and so is her dad. I can't help but feel like I did go too far. Am I the a-hole? Edit. For people asking, Regan basically ghosted her parents in college. She told her siblings why she didn't want a relationship. They didn't agree with her reasons, and that is why she cut them off too. Her parents should be aware of the reasons through the siblings. Now for the top comments. Not Day Hall. Her parents are certainly free to be swingers, but it was very selfish not to think about how their lifestyle choices impacted their children. Regan is an adult and has made a decision not to have them involved in her life. Her mother was warned, but ignored it. You are free to choose, but choices have consequences. This. Also, I'm sure there is a way to be swingers discreetly that doesn't involve having them in the home where your minor children live. Or, uploading videos with your face uncensored. Aside from Hollywood, what kind of parents even does that? Not Day Hall, but look at it from their perspective. I would think the same thing if my daughter cut me off. Regan needs to explain her feelings clearly to them as to why they aren't welcome in her life. Regan also likely needs therapy. But the daughter had almost no relationship even before she met him. Ignoring that and blaming the guy is a clear indicator that they don't take any responsibility for the estranged relationship. It's a common way people take to dealing with things they can't accept the responsibility for. I can't be wrong. There's no way my darling Regan is doing this herself. It must be that awful boyfriend of hers. She can tell them all she wants until she turns blue in the face, but they won't listen because they don't want to hear it. They'll find any reason not to trust it. That's exactly what happened to me. A narcissistic mother with no concept that she's an awful parent. Accusing the guy that told me you don't actually owe her anything, you don't need to put up with her, of isolating me because there's no chance in hell she could possibly ever have been the issue. 2 kids, 15 years, and still no contact with her later, and she still tries to tell people she's not a problem. My sister has moved away from her since and doesn't let her kid around her either. Not Day Hall. Jesus, your girlfriend has every right to not want to be around her parents. I can't even imagine how awkward and uncomfortable she felt when she was around them. And you have every right to call the cops on her mom. She was trespassing, apparently causing a scene, was warned that the police would be coming, and she still stuck around until the police showed up. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for renovating my house against my parents' wishes? About 6 months ago, I, 27 female, bought my childhood home for my parents. They both were having trouble getting up the stairs and felt they needed to downsize. They wanted to keep the house in the family since they had bought the house from my mother's grandparents. They were going to originally sell to my younger sister since she's the only one that plans to have kids and it is a big house, but she was not in the place to buy it at a time. My parents have spent a lot of money over the years fixing the house to their tastes, and the house is very beautiful. But me and my mother's tastes are very different. Plus, because my father took so long doing each part of the house himself, there are certain parts of the house that look more outdated than the rest. So I've been making plans to renovate most of the rooms. The only part of the house that is remaining the same as it is now is the master bedroom. While I had my parents and sister over for dinner last weekend, I told them about what I'd be changing. They all lost it on me, saying that I was destroying the memories we've made in the house. I disagree, since I have the right to make the house my own, and by their logic, they shouldn't have changed anything after they bought it from my mother's grandparents. They settled down after that, but a couple days ago I found out that my father had called my contractor and tried to fire him, stating that he was the actual owner of the house. When I called my father about it, he told me he would have never sold to me had I mentioned that I would be changing anything. I've since had to go no contact with most of my family because they won't stop calling to yell at me. Not the a-hole. It's your house. It's that simple. Yep, and Opie already gave them the perfect situation as an example. By their logic, they all should still be living in the house as it was when it was designed and built by Opie's great-grandparents. So like what, in the 1940s? As it sounds like Opie's dad had been remodeling the house for the past 30 years, the dad has zero room to be as butthurt as he is. And Opie, any stranger who had bought the house if you or your sister hadn't, would have undoubtedly renovated and remodeled. So many sellers don't understand it's not their house anymore. I can top this. When we bought our present home, I made good friends with a neighbor who was good friends with the former owner's best friend. The previous owners had totally decked out their son's room into something out of a magazine, painting a certain character and their friends on the walls with a matching wallpaper border. We are talking 4 to 6 feet tall characters, full color on all of the walls. Our son wanted something calmer and plain walls. At an MLM get-together that my friend dragged me to, the previous owner's BFF and the rest of the gang was there. The topic of me owning the house came up, and stupid me asked if they thought previous owner would like some of the wallpaper for her son's book, since I would be tearing it down. Their response, "You're redoing the baby's room?" Totally aghast that I would commit such a travesty to a work of art for a long-awaited baby. My friend tried to help, pointing out that my son was a bit too old for that particular character to be the theme of his room. I never did get invited back, but after that, I did not want to go. Not today, ho. What? They expected you to live like it's 1987, 1995, 2002, 2005, 2014, and 2020 forever? Oh my god. I can just see all the renovations in 80s bedroom and master bath. Light fixtures that scream, the colors clashing. It hurts. I once toured a house that hadn't been updated in years. It was in perfect condition, but rooms unchanged since the 1980s or even earlier. One of the bedrooms had 1950s kids cowboy wallpaper like Sheriff Woody from Toy Story. I did not buy the house. Am I the a-hole for refusing to be a bridesmaid in my sister's wedding? I, 24 female, have a sister, 28 female, Lexi. Me and Lexi used to be really close, and she was basically my best friend. However, around 7 or 8 months ago, I found out my boyfriend Jonah was cheating on me with her, and now they're getting married in August. We hadn't talked since then, until she called me the other day asking me if I would be one of her bridesmaids. This angered me, and I told her that I didn't want to do that, and she was messed up for even asking that. She said that it would mean a lot to her since I'm her only sister. She also told me that she had already bought the dress, so said I would be letting her down then and wasting the money she spent on the dress. I said that just because she bought me a dress doesn't mean I have to be in her wedding. She started crying and telling me how I was being insensitive and holding a grudge against her. I tried to tell her that I was sorry, but she didn't listen and hung up. Now, yesterday my parents invited me over for dinner, but what I didn't know is that Lexi had called them, told them what I said. So halfway through dinner, my mom out of nowhere says that I should be Lexi's bridesmaid. I told her I really didn't want to. She then said that Lexi told her what happened and that I shouldn't care about Jonah and just do it for Lexi. I said I was not going to be in a wedding with my cheating ex-boyfriend and watch him marry my sister. My dad got angry and called me selfish and kicked me out of their house. My parents haven't spoken to me and neither has Lexi. Now, I feel like a witch, but I also feel like I deserve to feel angry. I'm just so conflicted on what to do. Am I wrong for saying no? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, but your whole family sucks. $10 say Lexi is pregnant. Not the a-hole, but everyone else is. I'd personally consider it a win that none of these a-holes are speaking to you. Live your life without their BS and be happy. Oh yeah, OP, they're doing you a favor. Don't refuse this gift of no contact. They want you to feel rejected and wrong, like their attention is some kind of privilege. But it isn't. If this is what it costs to be in their lives, you are far better off without them. Enjoy some quiet drama-free time without them. And if they contact you, remind them that your position still stands and you accept their punishment of not talking to you. Maybe go so far as to say, "You're right, I wouldn't talk to me either. I definitely don't deserve your time or attention. No, you were right. It's best that you teach me a lesson." Not the a-hole. Tell me who's the golden child without telling me who's the golden child. Honestly, yeah, she's always been the favorite. And when he cheats on her, you'll be the only one not surprised. And when he tries to talk to you again, no one will believe you. These people are not your family. Get rid of them. They don't love you, and I'm sorry. Not the a-hole, of course. Not the a-hole. Do your parents really think it's about the cheating boyfriend and not being betrayed by your own sister who was your best friend? Lexi made her choice when she hopped into bed with your boyfriend. She doesn't get to be the victim here. For your own healing, please don't attend this wedding just to make someone who clearly does not care about you feel better. Adding that I would be patty AF and send her a congratulations card signed, "You lose them how you find them. Good luck." Next story is titled, "Am I the a-hole for humiliating my wife on social media to defend my mom?" We finally have gone no contact with my mom. It was a long, hard decision, but she and my wife are just fundamentally unable to get along and recently had a vicious fight, and I knew I had to put my wife first. This fight was so bad my mom didn't even protest the no contact. We're just done with each other, but I can't say it hasn't been gut-wrenching. My mom has given her version of the story to everyone, so I get that my wife wants to defend herself. But I hate that she's posting on social media because I find that tacky. And my mom just told people verbally. Anyway, my wife made a couple posts about my mom's behavior over the years, which, hey, they were true. But then she claimed my mom wore white to our wedding when she didn't, and she even posted a picture to prove it. This picture is not from our wedding. It is from my mom's own wedding, and my wife labeled it the mother-son dance. I was mortified. I don't even care about the white dress, but the man my mom was with was her husband, not me. Face was cropped out, and I felt humiliated. He was holding her very intimately, hand on her lower back, her head buried in his chest. My mom and I would never ever touch like that, and it made me feel sick. Heck, my mom was stiff during the actual mother-son dance. I know some families are more affectionate, but I would just never do that. I asked my wife to take it down and she refused. I took it into my own hands and comments. Honey, think you are confused. That's stepdad, remember? That was their wedding. She actually wore green to ours and posted the pictures for proof. My wife was furious and deeply hurt. She broke down crying and said I publicly humiliated her and sided with my mom. She said she just wanted a little bit of petty revenge, but I should have taken her side. It's been a day and she's still clearly upset. Not the a-hole. She publicly humiliated herself by acting like a petty teen engaged in a social media smear campaign. This 100%. That's high school BS. Super freaking gross. Airing dirty laundry on social media already sucks. This is another level, and would leave a bad taste in my mouth for a while regardless of current standing with a mother. Not the a-hole. She didn't air dirty laundry. She took needle and thread to create it, dirty it, and say it was someone else. Not the a-hole. Your wife is immature for doing that. Why would you post such a thing, not considering your feelings about it, much less your mother's, even if you guys are at odds with her? She deserved being called out. Next time, she'll be mindful of what she posts. Wife sounds like a drama queen. I know the sub is just no mother-in-law, but honestly, a lot of the posts there you can tell the daughter-in-law is equally as toxic, if not more. These sons have okay relationships with their families, and then their wives nuke things and demand pick me. All just seems like such a petty squabble for power with the mother-in-laws. Embarrassing to be old enough to think you should get married and acting this way in social media. Not the a-hole. I hope you went no contact with your mom based on behavior that you have witnessed yourself, because your wife clearly doesn't mind lying and manipulating. Exactly. It makes me wonder if his wife has lied before about things in order to get petty revenge. There is no way that out of the entire social media rant, the wife just decided to sprinkle in one obvious lie. I hope he simply just caught that lie because it was a photo. If anything, the only reason the wife didn't think twice about posting an easily disprovable photo is because her version of reality is super twisted. I am willing to bet a lot of money that other things Opie thinks are true are not actually true. Next story. Am I the a-hole for calling my husband selfish and saying no to the arrangements he made? I, female 33, have been married to my husband, male 38, for 2 years. He has a 9-year-old son from his former marriage. He's always been on bad terms with his ex. They had a messy divorce and basically hate each other's guts. It got worse after his ex got remarried. The current problem started when he found out that his ex-wife planned to go on vacation without their son, my stepson. Why? Because her new husband didn't want him to go, probably because it's a romantic getaway. My husband pitched a fit and insisted they take my stepson, but she refused. My husband then brought him to stay with us. Not his days, but I welcomed him and I made sure to keep him entertained and happy. All was good, till I found out that my husband has booked tickets for a vacation to this same place his ex and her new husband were going. Same hotel, same everything. He booked the tickets in mine and his son's name only. I was confused. I asked him about it and he said he did this to spite his ex and show her she can't exclude his son from a vacation and who the better parent is. He told me he's arranged for everything and all I had to do was take time off work and take his son and go. I was shocked. I asked if he was serious and he confirmed it. I went off on him saying I can't just take time off work and go with his son to a place I've never been before, just so he could one-up his ex. He ranted about how busy he was. Otherwise, he would have taken care of this himself, but sent me instead. I yelled, saying I've got a lot on my plate. I work full-time. I take care of my cancer-stricken mom. I clean, cook, and take care of my stepson on top of that. But he said my boss will understand if I take time off, unlike his. But in response, I called him selfish and said no to this arrangement and told him it was final. He flipped his lid on me, then told his son that I just said no to a fun vacation for him funded by his dad. I told him to stop it because I have commitments and won't risk losing my job over an unexpected vacation. And for what? We just got back from one a month ago. He's been ranting about how I'm wasting his time and money by declining to go, and that his son will hate me for this forever. Not Day-Ho. You are married to a man who hasn't got over his wife/ex and is willing to hurt his son for some toxic payback. Red flags. This will not end well. Run. Usually, I roll my eyes when Reddit jumps on the dump them ASAP train. But this is red flag upon red flag. Hope he needs to get out while she still can. Feel terrible for the kid though. Hopefully his bio mom is a better parent and gets sole custody one day. I agree. And maybe get a hold of the bio mom so she can be aware of what goes on over there, and that their son may/is used as a pawn. Poor kid. Not Day-Ho. But hun, he's either still in love with his ex and jealous that she's moved on, or he's got some serious power and control issues that you need to be aware of. If he's acting like this about her, it doesn't bode well for you. One-upping another can be fun, but not if it is done out of hate and throws away a lot of money and time and effort. Not Day-Ho and the divorce made/makes sense. Not Day-Ho. He's trying to use you and his son in his sick game of revenge. If it is so important to mess with his ex in this way, then he should take his son himself, not try to bully you into doing it. It's totally and completely inappropriate and unhealthy. And frankly, he is being emotionally and psychologically abusive to you. Do you see that? There's so much bigger issue here. Not Day-Ho. He really needs to see a counselor to work through this. It's poisoning his whole life. Was this trip his ex is going on planned around a time when you would have a son? People do go on trips without their kids, but that's beside the point. A lot of abusers just get better at manipulation and control after starting therapy because they start to hide it with terms the counselor uses. Until dude realizes people in his life are not pawns for him to control, but humans who have needs outside of serving him, he won't change. It's not about communication or anger issues. This is about control and thinking others join his life so he can control what they do and who they are. Therapy works for a lot of people, but this dude is controlling AF, so I'm thinking he has passed the point of help until his whole philosophy/ideology about relationships with humans changes in a big way. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to grieve with my wife after my aunt's passing? I, 35 male, am married to a woman named Jess, 26 female. We dated for 2 years before marriage and have been married for 1 year now. Most of my family has passed away, but I have, or rather had, one aunt from my mother's side. My Aunt Jill took an active role in raising me, making sure I was fed and clothed when my mother was unable or unwilling, which was often. We kept in touch, but living across the country from her, she and Jess never met. Yesterday morning, I got the news that my Aunt Jill had suddenly passed away. I was in shock because she was still young, and her life was taken prematurely in an accident. I immediately told Jess. Jess was sympathetic at first, but I told her that I needed a while to be in my room. I went to my room, where I kind of just mindlessly spaced out browsing through a news site. At some point, Jess knocked on my door and told me that I needed to talk about it, to which I responded I appreciated the sentiment, but I really just needed to be alone. Jess reacted harshly to this, saying I was an emotional black hole. Then she slammed my door shut and literally stomped away. For the next 2 hours, every 10 to 15 minutes or so, Jess would open my door abruptly and half shout asking if I was ready to be an adult. I grew increasingly impatient until I just stood up and went out for a walk. When I got back home about an hour later, the chain was locked on our front door, which we never use, and I repeatedly knocked/pushed the doorbell until Jess said that she'd only let me in if I agreed to talk about what happened. I said no, so Jess walked away. Eventually, she unlocked it because I kept pounding on the door and she didn't want me embarrassing her in front of the neighbors. Jess is furious at me now, saying that I'm not really grieving because I'm online. She said that I needed to let her in on my feelings, but I responded that it's hard to let her in on my feelings when she just refused to let me into our house. That set her off even more. Am I being a mega a-hole here? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, but your wife certainly is. There is no right or wrong way to grieve, and by pushing you into grieving her proper way, she's actually making it harder to you to process your aunt's death. She needs to apologize to you and back the heck off. Yep, she is showing both insecurity and immaturity. You cannot project on others how you would feel or mourn, or deal with deep emotions. Some people cry and need a shoulder. Some people need quiet alone time. Some people need to back away from it and approach it in a teeny tiny bites when it feels safe for them. Opie's wife is making it about her, and it's not. Immaturity. Exactly. She's the one being immature, not Opie. Opie's definitely the a-hole in this situation. You can grieve any way you want, and I'm sorry for your loss. Soft the a-hole for being a 32-year-old who was dating a 23-year-old and is now complaining about how immature she is. Not the a-hole. Just needs to back the heck off. She doesn't get to tell you how to grieve, and you don't have to perform your grief for her in a way that she finds satisfactory. Her locking you out is a solid a-hole move, as it's not giving you space to process how you're feeling. I want to repeat, she needs to back off. Grief is so very different for people. Not one human has the right to determine how you process it. My husband's father passed last year. They were very, very close, but my husband has a lot of mixed emotions since he was also an a-hole of a father. My husband didn't cry. He was down for a bit. I asked once if he wanted to talk. He said nope, not what he wants to do. And then I let it go. Of course, if he started showing some unhealthy behaviors, I would have tried to help out. But to someone on the outside, they never would have known he lost a parent. And that's okay. And he's okay, and this is consistently how he processes pain. Let people heal in their own way, damn it. Not the a-hole. Different people grieve in different ways. If your behaviors were going on for more than a week, you should be justified in being concerned about your withdrawing from the world rather than tackling the grief. But on the same day you got the news? Not cool. And then locking you out of your own home? That's over the top. This is a very troubling reaction from her. Am I the a-hole for not giving my family a percentage of the family business? 36 male. My grandfather owned a business that has been in our family for generations. Everyone in our family has worked or helped out at the business. About 10 years ago, Papa decided to retire. He was starting to have issues with his health. The business was failing due to lack of help and financial issues. My father and his siblings are older and mostly retired, so they didn't want to be bothered with it, nor did any of their children, including my siblings. Said it would be too much work to get it back up and running properly. I took part of my savings and gave it to my grandfather as a down payment. There were a lot of naysayers, including my parents, siblings, and some other relatives saying how I should have let my grandfather sell the business, thinking he would never see the rest of the money I owed him. Basically, saying they didn't believe in me. But within the first 3 years, I had paid him off completely, which made a business mine. The business is now quite successful. I have 3 locations, and thankfully my papa got to see the success before he passed. It went from being I couldn't do it, to them asking what I was doing with my money because they didn't see a difference in how my family and I lived. So there was all kind of ridiculous speculations. My wife and I have always been humbled about our blessings and lived below our means because there was a bigger picture for us. We lived in a 2-bedroom house raising our family for over 15 years driving beater cars. I had a home built from the ground up on a nice piece of land I had acquired. COVID hit and stalled everything, but it was finished at the beginning of this year. For the 4th of July, I invited a family down to celebrate. A lot of my family hadn't seen the home in person, so once they did, the talk of how much I was making came into place. Our home is now a 6-bedroom beauty with 4.5 baths that sits on over 60 acres of land and a private lake. I didn't entertain a conversation, but then my father brought up the suggestion of me giving a percentage to the family, siblings and cousins. I told him I was. My family, as in my kids. My siblings have nice careers, but they also have a lot of debt. I thought that would be the end of it, but it wasn't. Days ago, my mother mentions it again. I tell her that it wasn't up for discussion. She asks why wouldn't I want to share the success of my grandfather's business. I point out to her that while Papa may have started it, this was my business fair and square, and it's my choice and that it would never happen. Not liking my tone, she ran to my father and siblings, who have now been texting me like crazy, saying like I'm selfish, greedy, that I don't care about our family. I've ignored it, but I'm wondering if I'm in the wrong here. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Maybe for Christmas, you can get them all copies of The Little Red Hen. This is a good one. Seriously, not today, Hal, but you may need to just cut them out of your life. Success makes the ones on the outside so thirsty. And by cut them off, I mean full stop. Cease and desist, blocking, and no contact. Nobody gets more viciously greedy than family. And great job in buying the business outright from your pop-pop and then getting back on its feet. That was 100% you and 0% them, so that's the only percentage they deserve. Not the a-hole. You bought the business from your grandpa with your own money. And all the money and effort that went into it were your own, not your family's. They aren't entitled to money from a business that never contributed to. Exactly. If a stranger had bought the business and made it successful, they wouldn't be asking them for a piece of it. It's absurd. Not the a-hole. It's not their business. You purchased the business, renovated it. They don't get to demand a slice of the cake after you made a cake, just because the flour that you bought fair and square was owned by Papa once upon a time. Edit. Don't forget to get your affairs in full order, because your relatives are the type of people to contest any wills and whatnot. There really isn't a leg for anyone to stand on here if the OP purchased and fully repaid his grandfather for the business. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for making my 13-year-old niece return the birthday presents I bought for her because she was giving me attitude? 43 female, I have been very involved in my niece, 13 female, Scarlett's life. I frequently visit my sister and brother-in-law and often have auntie days with Scarlett, her sister, and my own kids. Scarlett is beautiful, creative, and clever girl, but she unfortunately can have an entitled attitude. Her parents are middle class. My sister works part-time while my brother-in-law is a magnet school principal. We explained to Scarlett that she's not going to get everything she wants in life, but we will always make sure she has whatever she needs. Scarlett isn't the only one who gets told no, as this applies to every child in our family. Scarlett still believes that because certain kids at her school have more money than her, she should always get expensive things too. She also has an attitude that because my partner and I make more money, we should buy pricey things for her. My sister and brother-in-law just continue to enforce boundaries and say they are waiting for when Scarlett matures. Scarlett's birthday is in a week. We will be on vacation on the actual day. So 2 days ago, I treated Scarlett to a mall trip. We had a spa day, got lunch, then we're about to head home when Scarlett said she wanted to go to the Apple store. Scarlett showed me one of the MacBook Air laptops and told me she wanted it. I asked if the Chromebook I got for her school was broken. She said it worked, but a girl in her class had a MacBook Air, so she wanted one too. I explained to Scarlett that if she were willing to wait until Christmas, I could try to find one on sale, but I couldn't afford it at the current price. Scarlett began to throw a tantrum because my son has a laptop that's over $2,000. A laptop I got second-hand, in which my son has used for over 8 years. I explained this to her, but Scarlett continued her tantrum, calling me a greedy witch. I firmly told her, Scarlett, if you do not stop this behavior right now, I will return your other gifts and you will get nothing from me. Scarlett continued to use profanity towards me, so I told her, that's it. We walked back to all the stores and returned everything. Glittery phone case, jewelry, stuffed animals, everything. The only thing I did not return was a book, but I kept it and told Scarlett I will hold on to it until I feel she has learned to be grateful. Scarlett whined in the car about not getting the things, and I told her, Scarlett, if you had been grateful, you would have gotten all those things, but you weren't, and now you have nothing from me. Many kids' families can't even afford food. I want you to really think about all the things you have and learn to be grateful. My sister and brother-in-law agreed with my actions, but my brother-in-law's parents say I was cruel to take birthday presents from a child, and they would be rebuying Scarlett the gifts I returned. I don't believe in rewarding bad behavior, and Scarlett will never be content until she learns to be grateful. Am I the a-hole? Okay, I was ready to be mad at you, but after reading this, I'm not. She's 13. You gave her a clear warning, explained the consequence, and gave her time to change her actions. She didn't, so you followed through with the consequence. I'd say that's reasonable. Not the a-hole. Yeah, this is just solid parenting. Or aunting, or whatever. Not the a-hole. You gave her a very needed lesson. It's a shame her parents hadn't done it already. Not the a-hole. Sounds like parents are trying. The in-laws buying all the returned stuff points towards the root problem. Yep, so now if she can't get mom/dad/auntie to buy something, she'll just run to grandma and grandpa. Not the a-hole. She called you a greedy witch. If I had ever spoken to any adult like that at her age, I would have probably been grounded for a year. Not sure if she has always used profanity with adults when she's angry, but her behavior needs to be checked before she does it to someone that does not care for her the way you do, like a school teacher or classmate, and get suspended. You were right to return her birthday gifts, because bad behavior should never be rewarded. Returning them was the consequence of her actions. No joke. If my kid got taken out for their birthday and they pulled a stunt like this kid did, they wouldn't get a birthday celebration, period. It would be a hard, tough lesson to learn, but respect and gratitude is an extremely important thing to learn. It's honestly nuts that a 13-year-old is acting that way. Next story. Am I the a-hole for leaving my sister and her husband in the rain? My girlfriend Emily is a food content creator. She loves what she does and her food is always tasty. If she decided to open a restaurant, she would always be fully booked. She does not do professional catering, but she likes to prepare food for friends and family. A little context. A few weeks ago, my sister Paige wanted to host a dinner party for her friends and family. 8 guests. She asked Emily to help her design an elaborate course menu. Eventually, this turned into Paige hiring Emily for a night to prepare and cook all the meals. Paige paid half of the agreed amount and promised to pay the remaining balance by a certain date. Emily spent days prepping, cooking, cleaning, etc. to make sure the dinner was perfect. She spent the entire day at their house prepping, and she also helped Paige clean the house in preparation for the guests. At first, she says that she was overwhelmed, but nothing she couldn't handle. She was alone working in the kitchen. The guests arrived almost 2 hours earlier than Emily was expecting. And according to Emily, my brother-in-law, sister's husband, started to brag about their new exotic maid that they hired because of this event. He went on mentioning how hard it was to understand their maid because of her accent or how obedient she is. My sister lives in an open-plan style house, so Emily could hear all of these things in the kitchen. Emily was incredibly uncomfortable the entire time, and as soon as she finished, she left. I asked Paige and my brother-in-law to apologize, but they refused. To make it worse, Paige has not paid Emily the rest of her promised money. Every time we call, text, or email, etc., she straight up ignores us. I assume they had blocked us on all social media messages, etc. It's gross, and I am so upset with them. A couple of days ago, Emily posted a new food-related video. It was very good and looked very tasty. About 2 hours later, my sister and her husband are outside my door, in the pouring rain, asking to come in. I was confused, but I assumed that maybe this was their way of apologizing. I did not let them in. I just opened the door a little. I was wrong. Paige mentioned how she saw Emily's post and wanted to come try it for herself. I was stunned. Not only was I disappointed in them for not apologizing or paying Emily, I was shocked by the ridiculousness of their thought process. They would show up for free food like nothing happened, ignoring the fact that Emily doesn't upload her content on the same day she makes it. I asked Paige or my brother-in-law to apologize, and when it was clear that they were making excuses, I said goodbye and shut the door in their face. They sat outside, with no umbrella or a rain jacket, for almost an hour, calling our names and spamming our doorbell. I got a call from my brother-in-law, demanding me to apologize because I got Paige sick. Emily thinks I may have been a bit too petty. Now, for the top comments. Not they home. This is what I like to call mess around and find out. They were rude the whole way through. You should also take them to small claims court where they will be forced to pay up the remainder of what's owed, though you may want to go to a legal sub or a lawyer to see what you can do. I'm shocked he answered the door at all. Exotic maid indeed. Exotic maid that he can't even afford to pay. My sister and her husband talk so lowly of someone they can't seem to pay. Not stay home. You didn't leave them in the rain. They chose to stay in the rain to yell at you. They were perfectly able to leave and get out of the rain. They cannot blame you for their choices. As for Emily's payment, it might be necessary to take them to small claims court. That is if she thinks it is worth it. Yeah, exactly. They literally could have just left. What would have happened if I wasn't home? I'd really like to know what their thought process is. An hour in the rain? When they could have just left or not show up in the first place. Man, please update us if anything else happens. I wish nothing would happen, but judging by how they've acted so far, other funky things are bound to come up. Watch out for flying monkeys too. Maybe you want to make a preemptive attack prior to the next shenanigans. Not stay home. Your sister and brother-in-law are disgusting people. Personally, I'd 1. Reimburse Emily for the other half as she accepted the job because it was your sister. 2. Treat her to something special as a way to apologize for the treatment she endured. 3. Tell sister and brother-in-law the owed amount is now X dollars. The half they owed plus treat cost plus convenience fee. And that you are going no contact with them until they A. Pay X dollars. B. Apologize to Emily. 4. Tell parents about number 3. Now, for the last story. Am I the a-hole for kicking my brother and his wife from my house? My wife, 31 female, and I, 30 male, had a baby 4 months ago. My wife has been suffering from PPD, and she's had a lot of breakdowns here and there, and it was just so heartbreaking to see. I decided to give her a day to herself and take care of the baby. So I took a small leave from work, gave her my card, and told her to do what she needs to do for herself. My brother, 35 male, and his wife, 34 female, came over the same day she was out for a visit and asked me where she was. I told them she was out doing her own things, and they asked why I was babysitting the baby. I told them it wasn't babysitting when it's my own child, and I was giving my wife some time to herself. My sister-in-law scoffed at me and told me she should be home like a good mom, and my brother laughed and agreed, saying that taking care of a baby is easy. I got angry at him and told him, of course it'd be easy for you, because you live with mom, so you could just dump the baby on her. He and his wife got angry and started yelling at me, so I kicked them out and told them to never come back unless they apologized. I told my wife about it, and she was sad that I fought with my brother because of her, but I reassured her that I didn't care because she was important. I got a call from my mom saying she agreed with me, but told me I was a bit harsh for what I said to him, and I can't help but feel like an a-hole for that. Am I the a-hole? You weren't the a-hole the moment they said the word babysitting. Not the a-hole. Agreed. Brother is 100% the a-hole. I always find it telling, sad, and funny that the people who consider taking care of your own children to be babysitting so often turn out to be the ones who don't actually parent their own kids. Whether it's a nanny, grandparents, or siblings, they always seem to find a way to dump their kids in someone else, and then have the gall to look down on those who actually spend time with their kids. I was out the other night and someone asked me if my husband was babysitting my 4-year-old. I said, babysitting? You do know he's the dad, right? It was so freaking awkward after that, but I hate these assumptions. Absolutely not the a-hole. I hope his wife is being supported as she should. Not the a-hole. You didn't fight with your brother because of your wife. You fought with your brother because he's an a-hole. Everything that came out of those people's mouths was appalling. What a-holes? People like that deserve the harsh truth. Otherwise, they remain obliviously and willfully ignorant. OP, please tell your wife that lots of people are wishing her well. I am, at least. She clearly has love and support at home, so I have faith things will get better. You two sound like a good team. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. You literally spoke the truth. I wish my husband was so understanding. I'm so sorry to hear that. I hope one day you can understand what you go through. Not going to happen. I got my tubes tied, cut and burned so I won't have any more children. But thank you for being an actual parent when so many refuse to.